G'day mates, Captain Doug here. Welcome to Houseboats 101. We've looked at it, we've been inside it, we've examined its electrical, mechanical and plumbing and control systems. Now it's time to take it out. I'm talking about our 80-foot houseboat, and in this episode I'll take you through the process of preparing the boat, getting it going and finally leaving the dock. I know there are houseboat captains who shake in their boots thinking about leaving the dock in a boat this size. But this is not the hardest part of piloting a houseboat. Coming back into the dock is way harder. So wind can be an issue even in a relatively protected area like we're in. Before I even think of leaving the dock, I check the weather forecast on my phone. You want to find a weather app that can be localized to your marina area and find out what the wind speed and direction they expect for the day. Above 15 knots forecast, and even I, with 12 years experience driving a houseboat, will be very wary about even leaving the dock. Flags are a captain's best friend when trying to decide wind speed and direction. Check the flags in your area and see which way they're moving and how much movement there is. Strategic areas like a fuel dock will usually have a flag to let captains judge the wind speed and direction. So check the forecast, not only for when you are leaving the dock, but for the time when you plan to return. For a new captain, having a departing procedure checklist is a good idea, and that's what I'll go through in this episode. After 12 years experience on houseboats, I don't need to refer to it anymore. But even then, occasionally I forget to do something, or my crew gets ahead of me in the process. One time I found they had untied the boat before I even started the engines. Another time I forgot to disconnect the shore power lines before we backed out. Things will happen, but as a captain you have to keep your cool and correct the situation without scaring the passengers. Calm authority is the best demeanor for a captain. All right, I've decided the weather is suitable and it's safe for us to leave the dock. Before I even start an engine, I prepare the boat for when we reach our destination. Houseboats rarely use an anchor like most other boats. An anchor that would hold a 30-ton boat would have to be extremely heavy, too heavy for a person to pull up. So it would require an anchor windlass and electric winch on the front of the boat. Secondly, depending on the wind and water depth, to properly anchor a houseboat, you would need a long anchor line and chain. Houseboats are actually built to be able to nose up onto a beach or shallow waterline. They have double layers of aluminum hull in the bow to take the grounding. However, you don't just push up on a beach and leave it there. Any wind or waves will quickly move the boat either away from or sideways to the beach. To prevent this, I run one long rope from each side of the boat from the back deck out at about 45 degrees and tie up to trees on the shoreline. If trees are not available where you beach, an alternate but less secure method is to bury steel stakes into the ground and tie up to those. I run out the beach ropes well ahead of time and secure them on the front deck of the boat. Make sure they are secure and won't fall into the water as you are going along, potentially fouling the propellers. While getting the shore ropes set up, it's a good idea to check the back deck and swim platform to make sure any water toys are well secured. You don't want to arrive at your destination and find they've been left along the way. At this stage, you need to decide, are you going to drive from the lower helm or, like I do, from the flybridge? If you're going to use the flybridge, remove and stow the covers. Next on the startup list is the engine blowers. It's a good idea to run these for a few minutes to clear out any gasoline fumes from the engine bay. Start the blowers now and have them running while you perform the rest of the startup. We leave the dock water line connected to our boat through summer. However, remember back to an earlier episode, we don't leave the faucet on whenever we leave the boat. So if it's currently turned on, turn off the water supply at the dock and prepare to disconnect the hose at the boat. If the water was turned on, you may need to depressurize the boat water system first. Do this by running a faucet in the kitchen sink until the pressure drops. Now, unplug the water hose from the boat. I use a quick connect fitting here rather than a screw fitting. Once the dock water is disconnected, you can turn on the internal freshwater pump to provide pressure to the boat's plumbing system. I'm now ready to start the main engines. The blower has been running while I handle the dock water system, so the engine bay should be clear of any fumes. Perform the engine startup procedure. Turn on the ignition key and an alarm will sound. At the microcontroller, press the button on the side to gain control at this station for that engine. And while holding the button, move the engine throttle forward out of neutral. Turn on the ignition key to start the engine and observe the engine tachometer. I say to watch the engine tachometers because being this far from the engines at the rear of the boat, you may not be able to hear them when you do start. Now the engines can warm up while you move to the next step of the undocking procedure. At this stage, I can start the generator, assuming I'm going to need the generator. If you're going to rely on your inverter power for the trip, you can bypass these next steps. Follow the generator procedure I showed you in an earlier episode. Start the generator motor and let it run a minute or two to warm up. Once running, check that the cooling water is coming out of the side of the boat, then switch off the dock power. At this stage, you may want to isolate some circuits that may put too much load on the generator if used together, such as oven, air conditioner, hot tub. Now, use the transfer breakers to put the generator power onto the remaining electrical circuits. It's a good idea to disconnect the shore power cables from the boat at this stage, unlike what I did on one occasion. Switch off power on the dock pedestal, then disconnect the power cables from the boat, being careful not to drop them in the water.
Hold on.
The crew can now be put back to work and untie all the ropes holding the boat to the dock. I leave our ropes attached to the dock and just unhook them from the boat. This way they're in the right place and are in the right length for when we return. Once ropes start being untied, the captain should not leave the boat and should move to the driving location selected. When the crew tells you all ropes are off and all passengers and crew are aboard, look behind the boat, sound your horn and prepare to move out of the slip. Press the controller selector button to gain control at your station. Make sure the steering is straight ahead and move the controllers into reverse at idle speed. The boat will slowly start to back out of the slip. Keep a wary eye behind you for idiots who think they can make a houseboat get out of their way. Once the crew advises that the bow has cleared the dock, turn the wheel to steer the back of the boat into the channel. I like to use the pivot method to spin the boat once clear of the dock, mainly so the boat is not moving too far down the channel, causing problems for other boats. Centre the steering and move one of the controllers into the forward position idle speed. If you want to pivot the boat to the right, leave the right side controller in reverse and have the left controller in forward. This is much like steering a bicycle. To go right, you move your left handlebar forward. To go left, you move your left handlebar back and your right handlebar forward. You can control the forward and reverse movement of the boat by increasing the speed of one or the other engines. If you are still moving backwards and you want to stop that movement, increase the speed of the engine currently in the forward direction. Well, that's how you get a boat out of the dock. Easy, right? Next episode, we'll cover piloting a houseboat in open water and deliberately running aground. Cheers, mates.